Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Leo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of April 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's the first link in the description box below the video. Second link in the description box is to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. You can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. And hang out with a truly extraordinary group of people, and we've got classes and all sorts of things running over there. So if that's something that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link. Third link is to 3-month overviews that I've done for each of the signs. They run obviously from April to June 2024. We are moving into a tumultuous time, and if you think you might benefit from knowing how the energies of the moment might be affecting your sign in particular, and get some advice on how to navigate it, that's the link that you want. So, Leo, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. I'll flip the camera around here. And I have 3 cards for Leo, please. Right, ooh. So we've got the Ace of Pentacles in your recent past. About current energy for Leo, please. Thank you. We have the 9 of Wands. Yeah, that's probably on point. And what's coming towards Leo for April, please? Thank you. We have the Knight of Pentacles also on its side. We've got the 8 of Cups at the bottom of the deck. Let me just move that out of the way there. There it is. So there is definitely movement, and I think you're probably ready for it. But it's not quite as straightforward as you would like it to be, because when is it ever as straightforward as we would like it to be? Let's get some clarifiers out on the table here and see what this is all about. I mean, the fact that you've only got the 9 of Wands that's in the upright right now, I think says a lot about the kind of, I don't know, almost sideways movement that it feels like is going on for you at the moment. I think with the shadow card being the 8 of Cups, and obviously that being in the upright, there's a sense that you're actually moving forwards more than you think that you know, but the expression of that probably isn't in the material right now. So let's have a look at the Ace of Pentacles. We have that. Okay, 10 of Wands and the Ace of Pentacles. Tell me about the 9 of Wands, please. Oh, right. We've got the Fool in reverse, and we've got the 6 of Cups in reverse, and what about the Knight of Pentacles, please? Okay, so we've got the 9 of Cups reversed, the Chariot reversed, the 2 of Wands reversed, and the Knight of Wands on its side. Knight of Pentacles, interestingly, is the bottom card here. And that really is the essence of the message here, Leo. I think without saying anything, before we get into saying anything else, the expression of the movement on the material plane is limited, very, very limited. However, I do think that there is something much more powerful going on in the background, which frankly is annoying. I think it's really, really annoying for all Leos. Like, we would like some version of some movement moving forwards. And some way of seeing the fruits of our labours. And what this is saying is the fruits of the labours aren't coming yet. They're certainly not coming in April. It's more of the same. Well, something that I've been talking to Sagittarius about quite a lot is the notion of chopping wood and carrying water. You know, the things that are happening here are changing you rather than changing your circumstances. And that isn't necessarily comfortable when it happens, but it is strengthening you. And I think that that's important. I mean, I think it's quite interesting that you haven't appeared on the table. Generally speaking, Leo is a sign that can be depended upon to show up in some sort of way in their reading. And we don't actually have a Leo card anywhere here. But that's okay, because you yourself are in a state of flux. And I wonder if part of the lesson, Leo, is the reduction of dependency on certain outcomes. We talk about attachment to outcome quite a lot on this channel. Spoken about it a lot over the last 4 years. And particularly with regard to there being evidence of the work that we have put in, or the fruits of our labours, right? Being able to actually visibly see them. But the big work here is, as I said, happening on you, Leo, right? Let's have a look here, right? We've got the Ace of Pentacles, and it's kind of sideways. Well, it's not kind of sideways, it is sideways. Some sort of small breakthrough, which should have led to the initiation of something new, but it's offset, it's wonky. We've got a supporting upright Ace of Pentacles, which is good, because it's saying, actually, you know, there's a lot of things that are going on here that you just can't quite see yet. But the external expression of that is something that is currently hidden from view. It's sort of operating underneath the radar, if you will. The Ace of Pentacles is about, it's a new start in the material. I mean, sometimes it can speak to ways in which your material existence is improved, and that can be by way of, you know, a new job or a new home, or, you know, the possibility for promotion or something like that. But really, when you dig down into this card, it's about where your attention goes, and correspondingly where the energy flows. Now, because there's such a focus on some sort of material change, it seems to me that what's being missed, maybe it's not being missed by some of you, but certainly it's less obvious, are the changes that are happening quite rapidly with you. We've got the Ten of Wands underneath there, which is a card of you know, really quite hard work. It's a card of burden. It talks about things, frankly, being too fucking hard. And one of the things that is actually quite welcome about Ten of Wands is the fact that it is a 10. It represents an end to something. Now, the end, I actually think, is the kind of is the breaking point. We like it when we get a 10 and then we get a corresponding ace, right? Because we've got the end of a cycle and we've got the beginning of a new one. But because the physical expression of this isn't actionable, or hasn't been actionable, it's like there's been a shift, there's been a break, there's been a move away from the stasis that you seem to have been suspended in for quite a long time. But it's not giving you the opportunity to really engage with the new in the way that you want to, because in this state of stasis, in this state of frustration, you are having to adjust the way that you see the world, adjust your emotional responses to it, adjust the level of investment in the outcome that you've had versus where you are right now. You know, it's that old thing of, you know, wherever you go, there you are. And the reason why this is important, Leo, is not because the outcome that you're looking for doesn't ever come anywhere near you. I do think it is coming toward you, but that you have to be different to meet it, different to, you know, how you are right now. We're not simply taking Leo as they exist and transplanting them into some sort of new situation or some sort of new outcome. There's a turning to meet it, whereby you become the person who can have this very, very strong new start, but because of who you are, not because of where you are. Does this make sense? So when we move into your current energy, we have the Nine of Wands, and yeah, you might feel like you've taken 2 steps forwards, and then what's happened is you've taken 2 steps back. We've got the Fool in reverse. They're speaking to a lack of movement, for sure, you know, before we even talk about anything else. But also a sense that something has changed, right? The Six of Cups is a card of the past. It can speak to children, very strongly to children, but it can also speak to childhood. And I think that this is, it's an interesting and very nuanced position that the cards have taken here, in so much as they are expressing how, although things have been very hard, and although you feel like you've taken 2 steps forwards and 2 steps back, there's been a severance of an old version of you. And where you are at the moment seems to be in that liminal space betwixt the end and the beginning. It's not comfortable. It's characterized, one would say almost certainly, by uncertainty and maybe no small amount of feeling lost, actually. But nevertheless, you are here, and you are increasing in resilience every single day that you get up and you keep putting one foot in front of the other. You know, this 9 of Wands is the fuck will this ever fucking end sort of energy. We thought it was ending over here, but then we seem to have taken a step back, and it's like, well, no, it's just stretching out further and further in front of me with no distinct end, and certainly no, you know, meeting the outcome that we were trying to manifest for ourselves. The Fool in reverse is it has another meaning which is quite interesting though, aside from, you know, denoting the fresh start as it would when it was in the upright, because it also talks about faith and trust. And I wonder if, for a few of you, you're sort of getting a little bit lost in the source. Because it is 2 steps forwards and 2 steps back. You know, the question of whether you are actually making any kind of progress at all, being the thing that seems to be sitting, like weighing quite heavily on your shoulders here. But again, I think there's something really profound that is shifting within you here. Let's pull up this Triple Goddess deck, because there's no possibility of going backwards now. You are committed to the path, and we see that with the Knight of Pentacles here, right? You are committed to the path. But I think at this point, the path is obscured. There's what you thought you wanted and the way that you thought it was going to happen. And then there's been the shit show of how it's actually played out. But in every... on every occasion where it hasn't worked out quite as cleanly as you expected, it's taken you another step further and further away from what has been problematic in the past. And you yourself are becoming stronger. You are becoming more resilient. You are better able to maintain boundaries with new people, or even people that still exist right now. But I do feel like it's testing you. It's testing your faith. Now, I don't like the word testing too much, because I think too many of us have been traumatized by, you know, school and whatnot, and it gives us that sense of it being something that we might inevitably fail. But it's the heaviness. And it is at the point where things feel most heavy that we are called on to have the most faith, the most hope, the most trust. That's what's being strengthened in you here, Leo. And it sucks. Like it really does suck. You know, because your ability to be able to wander free and light as a cloud is being absolutely restricted right now. Like, it's not possible. And realistically speaking, you can look at your situation and say, well, right, there might have been a shift, there might have been a movement over here, but actually all it's done is moved all the stress and the worry kind of sideways, because now I still can't move forwards. I've just removed one particular impediment. Well, that is Fool and 6 of Cups reversed, please. Thank you. There you are, Leo, the Strength card. I'm sure it's very... I've lost the word that I was looking for there. Consolation. At this point, it probably feels like very small consolation that you, as a spirit, as a soul, are growing stronger every day. But that is what is happening. And I would say even more than that, you are becoming a more powerfully authentic version of you than you would possibly have managed were situations different. You know, had you had what you wanted immediately in the way that you wanted it, the chances are you would not have learned and grown as much as you have done in the interim. And, you know, perhaps if you can put emotion to one side for a second, because there's very little that's emotional here other than a connection to the past. If you put all of that to the side for a second and have a look at what the last year has been like for you, in all likelihood, you can see those little steps that you've taken, and it was a whole year's worth of them, where there's been a rapid evolution of you that you almost didn't notice because you were fixated on an outcome. Now, I talk about fixation on outcomes and how it's not necessarily a helpful thing, but it's very different towards, it's very different to having a goal that you're trying to move towards, right? And the difference would be here, if you are sat in a space of being all like, oh, once I can do this thing, once I am, able to go and start this new thing over here, everything's going to be perfect, everything's going to be fine, then you're fixated on an outcome. You have attached yourself to the outcome. You've attached your mental, physical, spiritual well-being on something that does not exist yet. If you have a goal, and you accept that there are going to be obstacles and obstructions in the way, and that's okay, it's just another thing to work through, then that's a very different position. And I think possibly what this last year has been teaching you is to be able to discern the difference. And where you detect in yourself that perhaps you are not paying as much attention to the wherever you go, there you are kind of principle, you can correct that, adjust it. I think a lot of what is happening here is enabling you to be very present. So you might be restricted, you might be stuck, you might be trapped, whether that is, it could be by the behaviour of another or simply your circumstances. But if everything that you have is fixated on the future and saying, when I get there, everything will just be better, everything will just be easier, then you're missing the bigger lesson. I do really feel that very, very strongly. And there might be all sorts of ways in which you can sort of detect this in your last year. So, are you better at maintaining boundaries now? Are you taking a little less shit than you might have taken last year? Have there been things that have happened in the last year that, sent you up a height, and you were able to bring yourself back down from that and consider it more logically and more reasonably? If you can answer yes to any of those questions and a multitude of others besides, then this is where the movement is happening. Now, when we move into April, as I'll say, it's a little bit of a shit show because we've got challenges abound, right? We have 3 cards that denote specifically movement in those cards that represent April. We have the Knight of Pentacles, we have the Chariot card, and we have the Knight of Wands, and not one of them is in the upright presentation. I'm sorry to say it, Leo, but I think that you can expect that if there's any movement happening at all, it's lateral, in the way that you've come to expect from the energies of the moment, right? You might take 2 steps forwards, but you'll almost certainly be taking 2 steps back over the course of this month. But I think it's more likely that you're going to detect this lateral movement rather than this linear movement, where you're kind of moving from side to side and picking up stuff on the way and putting things down on the way. Now, the Knight of Pentacles and the Knight of Wands sit at rather opposite ends of the scale from each other. The Knight of Wands and the Knight of Swords very, very swift moving. They can be quite hasty and they lack an attention to detail. The Knight of Pentacles on the other side is the slowest moving knight in the deck. And he does represent the principles of commitment and dedication and attention to detail and putting one foot in front of the other and it not really mattering how slowly you move. But there's something kind of erratic about the fact that they're both showing up here and they're both showing up sideways. It feels kind of chaotic in so much as you're trying to pay attention to the detail, but you're also trying to spot opportunities for any kind of movement whatsoever and take those. And the resultant, it's just sort of a bit of a mess in the middle. Now, I don't think that this is a reflection on you, Leo, at all. I think that this is the energies of the moment. And as we know, April is quite a tempestuous month. But what I do find interesting is these 3 cards in the middle that are separating these 2. So we have the 9 of Cups, we have the Chariot in reverse, and we have the 2 of Wands in reverse. Now, if I can just go to the 2 of Wands first. That card, when it's in the upright, talks about needing to make a decision. Well, there's kind of a decisive element to it, right? But there's an understanding that we're at a crossroads. And although there is no movement that is implied by the Two of Wands, because it is that consideration before movement that it represents. Three of Wands is where you actually go out and start doing things. The Two of Wands is walking through in your head the consequences of going one way or another, right? I read a Buddhist inspirational meme thing on Instagram, and I'm not generally a big fan of those, but it was the Buddhist principle of there being nothing other than right now. You know, the past is simply a memory, the future is imagination. All we have is the right now. And this card being in the reverse means that for whatever reason, your ability to be able to utilize your imagination to consider where you might go next is actually being removed this month. You are not at a crossroads, except that you kind of are, which is really interesting, but it's an internal crossroads rather than an external, where am I going to go, what am I going to do? It's really pulling it within. It suggests to me that you don't really have the opportunity to consider which road you are going to take. Now, whether that's because the decision has been made for you, or the well, let's go with what the other cards are saying, right? There is no chance of forward movement this month. In fact, it's about kind of unfucking the mess that is existing in the middle, in the now, right here, right now. We cannot be thinking about which way we're going to be going, because currently our feet are wedged in mud and we need to deal with that problem first, right? It's that sort of energy. But the Chariot in reverse is a slamming on of the anchors, as my partner would say, right? It is an absolute breakneck stop where there is no movement forward whatsoever. It's the card of Cancer, and it does also represent self-knowledge and self-discipline and self-motivation, right? It's very much a card of the self, and it speaks to a balance and equilibrium that is achieved within the self. Something this month is flipping the Chariot over. And this is why I say, like, it feels like a chaotic mess right here in the middle of where you are and what you're doing, and it's going to need your attention on it right now to sort it out. And whatever it is that you've been trying to achieve moving forwards, whatever your goal is, right, it's almost like you can't think about that this month. This month it has to be about unpicking these problems here. And with this Nine of Cups in reverse, it really does feel like there's something very unsettling about it for you. I mean, the Nine of Cups, for me, speaks about how you manage your emotions. It speaks about other things besides. It talks about your goals, your wishes, your aspirations, and sometimes the achievement of those. But I'm more inclined to think about it in terms of how you manage your emotional state while you are dealing with other stuff. Now, if that was in the upright, I wouldn't have any concerns about you at all. But it's not. Which means that the growth here for you this month, the movement here for you this month, is all on how you deal with things, how you feel about things, how you manage yourself. We've got two cards that represent self-management, if you will. Nine of Wands and the Nine of Cups. The Nine of Wands is in the upright, that's great. The Nine of Cups is in the reverse. That is a challenge that is arriving directly at your door, and it feels incredibly frustrating, but the advice is the same whichever way you look. It's like you've just got to keep plodding, and whether you take 2 steps forwards and 2 steps back, certainly towards whatever external goal you had for your future, it doesn't matter, because the big work is happening here in you. It is you that is changing, Leo, not the circumstances. And this here is representative of something that feels to me like it's going to accelerate your growth, because it is making you even stronger. Now, I've talked before about how the Strength card kind of sometimes gives me the willies, because we know and love this card as Leos. But there used to be a point where I would feel like crying whenever that card came out, because what it said to me was something ahead of you is going to be so challenging that you are going to have to draw on those reserves of strength that you have built up through dealing with situations like this in the past before. Which is to say, it's not going to be easy. But this is how you become strong. You know, we cannot become strong by sitting on the sofa and watching Netflix, right? We've actually got to put ourselves through some sort of physical endurance. We've got to go lift those weights. We've got to go kick those bags. We've got to go run. We've got to do something. We've got to put ourselves into a state of discomfort for a future benefit. And this feels like some pretty hardcore training that you're going through in the month of April. Now, I do. Let's pull another card and just see what's going on here. Right, so we've got the Lovers in reverse, we've got the Devil showing up, and we've got the Six of Pentacles. And we've got the Death card at the bottom of the deck. I mean, this is pretty profound here, Leo, because, you know, the Lovers card can talk about a breakup. When it shows up in the reverse, that might be possible for some of you. That might be where the chaos is beginning to appear. But I think for more of you, it's going to be that feeling of being in a state whereby you are kind of separated from an ability to be able to manifest, from an ability to kind of draw all things together. You know, if the Lovers card in the upright is about union and harmony, and it's another card that actually can speak about balance and equilibrium, just like the Chariot card does. You can see it in the symmetry of the card, right? We see it in the same way with the Chariot card, right? Both pretty symmetrical. Then this is talking about something that is a chaotic kind of falling apart or a rendering apart, and it seems to me to be drawing up demons from the deep for you. I mean, perhaps this is something to do with Chiron. I know Chiron is particularly active at the moment, and Chiron is doing things with the North Node as well. But I mean, we've got a solar eclipse in Aries. There's Aries retrograde. There is the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. I mean, I think the signature of this month for everyone is chaos, but I don't think I've seen it quite so starkly laid out as it is here for another sign. There's something here that's drawing up your deepest fears and actually making you face them, Leo. And I don't enjoy giving you that message. But we have the Devil card here. It's a card of Capricorn, as the Lovers is the card of Gemini. As I mentioned, Cancer over there. And we've got Scorpio down here. Sagittarius and Virgo happening there. It's things that are being brought up to the surface so that you can recognize them. Because, you know, if part of what has characterized your energy over, maybe it's over the last year, but definitely I would say over the last 6 to 8 months, is that sense of restriction. And as we know, you know, we are never really trapped. It's something that's going on within us that is being reflected outside of us. Then the Devil showing up so prominently here this month is showing you in stark relief not only what it is that really scares you, but the extent to which that has been stopping you from making the moves that you have been trying to make. Now, it could be that it's an external actor that the universe is sending to you to agitate that out of you. But it could be entirely circumstantial. The important thing is, you know, these energies are rushing towards you because they are wanting some sort of response. You know, the major arcana are those big universal energies that are always at play on you in some way or another, right? Requiring some sort of response. The response comes through the minor arcana. These are the day-to-day things that you have control of. And we've got the Death card representing transformation, you know, sometimes endings and liberation. We've got the Devil card, which is showing you where you are stuck or trapped, but more specifically, where the illusion of being stuck and trapped is. Because ultimately, you know, the Devil has no power of his own, save that which you give him. And then we have the possibility of things starting to fall apart somewhat. It's really interesting, and I'm sure I mentioned this last month, Leo, that I felt like Venus retrograde last year, which happened in the sign of Leo. I don't know what it is. I haven't seen an astrological link, but it's the second month on the trot that I felt like whatever was going on for you around about the time of the Venus retrograde last year is playing. It's almost like the final act, if you will, of whatever was initiated around about there, or at least whatever was being brought to your attention there in a way that you hadn't really considered it before. Now, when did the Venus retrograde start? And I have a feeling it was around about mid-July, but I really can't testify to that. Like, you'd have to go back and check. But it would be interesting to consider what it was that was going on for you around about July, August, and I think we'll just shade into September. Now, Venus is about what you love and how you love and all those kind of things, but it's also about money. It's also about value. What is it that you value, and how does that express itself within you? Because as something is falling apart here and fears are rising, it is for you. And that's a moon in Taurus card, right? So we've got the moon, emotional stuff, we've got Taurus, Venus. It's how you find your personal balance within that. See, look here. Instability, imbalance. Instability, imbalance. These are major arcana cards. Like, the universe is throwing this at you, not to punish you, but to make you stronger, to fortify your position internally, even more so than you currently hold. And it's the Six of Pentacles that is the response that the universe requires. How do you balance yourself out emotionally, materially, spiritually, in the face of these big energies at play on you? You know, we can see the Knight of Pentacles in the upright now having the effect of showing you what is really important, showing you what really has value in your life, so that you can align yourself more with that than what it is that you have been aligned to, whatever that might be. Because the Eight of Cups is an emotional release from something that has been keeping you very stuck and very trapped. I mean, whenever we see an 8, we're always talking about power of some description, right? So the power of the 8 in the Strength card obviously is the strength. It is the endurance. It is the growth. It's the power that comes from being very strong. But the Eight of Cups here is speaking to the power of leaving an emotional position behind, right? Or a certain set of emotions that you probably have been rocking since about July or August last year, that may well have right at the bottom of them fear, and a fear that possibly you might not have even recognized. Like, this whole month is actually incredibly transformative for you. And I'm sorry if what I would like to say is that everything's just going to turn out great and it's going to be fine. I don't feel like that's the case at all. I feel like the whole of this month is chaotic for you, but towards the end of the month, there's a whole transformation of you that has occurred in the middle of it that is getting you much more on your path and at a level that you're not currently working at. And whether it's by way of self-knowledge, self-insight, what it is that you're leaving behind, a sense of personal power and the amount of authority and autonomy that you have over yourself, and the extent to which you can show up authentically. These are all gifts that are being given to you, Leo, and I think a lot of what sees you through this month is your willingness to engage with what is really hard. It's a willingness to authentically engage with what your personal fears are, and however this chaos is manifesting in your life. And it's going to be different for each of you, obviously. This is a collective reading after all, and it's very general. It's learning to dance. Like, what this really doesn't seem to be saying to me is that you need to dig in and be stubborn and all these kind of things. There's a fluid, there's a gracefulness that I'm starting to feel in all of this chaos here as you're moving around it. And maybe that's where the lateral movement I could feel earlier was coming in. It is graceful. And the more that you can face whatever's coming up, whatever the chaos is, gracefully, and dance from one side to the other, accepting the changes within you, I think the less traumatic this month is going to be. This is really interesting. Right, I'm going to go and do the extended now. We are going to look specifically at April. We've got the run-up, we understand what's going on here, but I want to pull this apart a little bit here and give you as much assistance as I can in trying to navigate the energy. So if you'd like to join me, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Vimeo, or you can do it on Circle. And indeed, I would be delighted to see you in either place. But if this is where we part ways, that's fine. Just lean into the faith, Leo, and don't be afraid of facing your fears head on, because you are more than strong enough to be able to process them, grow, evolve, transform, and move beyond. But in all likelihood, it is not going to be a comfortable month. So know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.